Hi, welcome to an episode of She Builds. We're live here from the Women of the Cloud Summit in New York City. Thank you for tuning in and dialing in. So the She Builds program is aimed to close the skill gap, specifically around the cloud and technical skills, and really help women and those who identify as women to thrive and develop their careers, both in technology, but also in business. So in this special edition, we are here at the event focusing on diversity, inclusion, and equity. And I have two lovely guests here. I'll start by introducing Puneet Agarwal, who is a director for solution architecture at Amazon. And we're going to have an interview, and I'll hand it over to Puneet. Thank you so much for being here, but I'll carry it over to you, Puneet.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrea. And folks, it's great to be here. And I'm joined by a lovely guest today, Priya Bhargava from Ation. Welcome, Priya, and thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure and privilege. Thank you so much for having me here.
No, it's great. And it's amazing to hear from the women leaders in the industry like yourselves and get your perspective for all our viewers for this. So, thanks again. So let me get into some questions and get to know a little bit more about you. So what's your role at Ation and what do you do?
Absolutely. So I have the privilege of serving as the Chief Product Officer at Ation, which means that I oversee what the product roadmap is. So really highly focused on how our core platform and applications grow and evolve, and how we prioritize what we do and how we deliver those things to the market in an expeditious manner.
Interesting. Awesome. And then could you talk to us a little bit about your career journey?
Sure.
Because, of course, we don't see a lot of female product officers out there. So it must have been quite an interesting journey. So just curious about how did you decide that, you're going to pick tech as your career, and then how did you evolve in your current position?
I wish it was as deliberate as you make it sound. Obviously, a lot of serendipity that comes into play. I was a geneticist by undergraduate training and thought I wanted to be a physician. My father is a physician and pulled me aside one day and said, "You have a very high EQ, and I'm really scared that you're going to take your work home with you every day." And I took that very seriously, decided to take a year off to explore whether or not I really wanted to pursue medicine, got recruited by a startup. So again, that's the serendipity in technology, in healthcare technology, which is what I've spent the last 25 years doing. From that point of initial recruitment into a hypergrowth startup, I just got that bug for entrepreneurship more than anything else. Just the idea of taking technology to solve solutions that are so pervasive, and how do you use technology to do that in a much more efficient and effective manner than has historically been done. And so I would say the privilege of my career has been doing that in various spots over healthcare. I've been at 7 hypergrowth companies. I've seen 3 through acquisition and been part of a core team of a company that went IPO. And over that time, I've just had the privilege of playing different roles within an organization. And from what I think from a chief product or a product officer perspective, which by no means was the goal, was that you really need to have that holistic perspective to be, in my opinion, the best chief product officer, because ultimately you are distilling various stakeholder perspectives. And so by playing those roles, whether that was on the services side or on the technology side or on the analytics side, or even on the marketing side, I felt more equipped to do it. And then, like every good story, somebody took a chance on me and put me into the role. And I've now had the privilege it's my 4th time being a chief product officer for a healthcare tech company. So it's been a really fun ride. Again, much more organic than deliberate, but really excited about where it's gotten me today. But
yeah, no, that's an amazing story.
Thank you.
And especially like how our family influences and our mentors and sponsors help us shape our career. And the other thing, of course, is you're ready for those next level opportunities, and when you get them, you're ready, and you are able to get them. So that's amazing. So speaking about tech and the product market and healthcare tech space, what are the areas of technology that are most exciting for you right now?
Well, so it seems like it's a relatively obvious answer, but one that I think is how I'd like to say, again, the hallmark of my career is how do we take technology to improve healthcare? as we look at what we're dealing with here in the United States and really across the world, it's one of the most slowly evolving industries, and the ability to use technology to accelerate treatment, to better understand treatment journeys and have more personalized healthcare, to lower the cost of healthcare, which is astronomical and not bearable for most individuals here in the United States and around the world. I truly believe that a technology solution, coupled with, of course, the brilliant minds in healthcare, is the only way for us to resolve this. And so, to me, seeing that over the course of my career has been really what's been most gratifying. I think there's a lot more work to be done, and I'm excited to see what my successors do. But I'm hoping that we're starting to pave the way to accelerate that innovation and actually make that transformation in healthcare that's absolutely necessary. And again, in my humble opinion, be only catalyzed through technology.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's a great point that, the scale at which we want to solve the healthcare issue, the technology is an amazing lever to pull there. So that's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, talking about you have been a chief product officer at multiple companies, and you have seen a lot of companies go live and build products and all of that. As product officers and product managers build their product, how do they think about mitigating biases? Of course, because what you're designing and building is going to be used by masses. How do you reconcile with, of course, biases and then gender bias or color bias,
Sure.
racial bias?
Sure.
What's the approach? How do you think about that?
Yeah, I think there's two levels to the way we think about that. One, inherently is a very obvious answer of making sure that the people that from which we're doing the market research, the customers, the users that we're talking to, adequately represent the real user base that we're going after. And that's really, really important. I think that where product officers sometimes fail is that they get very focused on buyers that have a very, very different persona than users do, both from a gender perspective, from a socioeconomic background, accessibility factors, so on and so forth. So really discerning who your user is and understanding that profile and making sure that perspective is holistic and very deliberate. And I think also what I and the leaders and my team really think very carefully about is being a product manager is in itself the need to look at multiple different perspectives when you're building a product. You can't have the single profile of a product manager.
Yeah.
It's really important that you put together a group of distinct and complementary individuals who all feel truly empowered to share their very different perspectives, because I find it most gratifying oftentimes telling someone my job is now to be silent and let all the other brilliant people that I've had the privilege of hiring to do the hard work, and just watching those different perspectives that sometimes even in my own role that I forget as a woman of color, I do have a perspective, and it is built on both the fact that I am a female and of color. You all sometimes forget, but putting people who are very disparate from one another, you see the magic happen. And so for me, as deliberate as we are about discerning our user base and making sure we're represented there, it's just that whether it's product designers, engineers, product managers, they all have, they all represent different perspectives and put into the room together and empowered to share that.
Yeah, no, and it's true, like all the users and everybody comes from different backgrounds. So that's an amazing way of getting all the inputs while you're designing the products. So thank you, I appreciate that.
Of course.
Just talking about your career journey before, and you have probably seen a lot of women, progress through their careers in different industries and whatnot. What do you think are the most pressing issues or barriers for women, especially in tech and the healthcare industry, that are still challenging?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share some of the ones that I've experienced personally. I think that probably is most authentic. I'm the first woman in my family who works. And, I'll say there was a certain point in my career when I first became chief product officer, when somebody close to my family said, that's great and all, but make sure you don't neglect your family. And so that's real. This was not, this was about a decade ago. So I think that cultural realities, the ideas of traditional roles of women I'm a single mother, and that means more than 50% of the share, and by no means due to a lack of a great partner on the other side. It's just traditional roles, and whether or not I'm encouraging them, that's just the reality of society. And so I think there's those truths that will take time to change. And I think not having sponsors, I got here very much so due to someone taking a chance on me, and I'm not sure, and I raised my hand for it. And I wouldn't have always done that had I not been encouraged at the right time. So that's why I really say the word, serendipity and hard work, right? So I think it's all of those things put together. I think, again, societal biases that are there. No worries. Societal biases that are there, lack of sponsorship, women not standing up for themselves, so on and so forth.
Try again later.
My apologies.
Not at all.
It's the Gen AI. Sounds like. That's very powerful, and that's pretty moving. It's we still have the society and the biases around that. That's still a major challenge. What would be your advice? As women grow through their careers and navigate their careers with all the challenges they have around, and how they can leverage mentors and sponsors and be more open to those relationships. What would be your advice to everybody?
Yeah, raise your hand. I mean, it took me quite a while to get comfortable saying it. So now it sounds like it's obvious, but it really was really hard to learn to do. I sometimes will find that I lose my own voice even today. So just be okay that it takes time, and you will fail at it on days. You're just not feeling 100%. You're just not as 100% sure. On other days, you sound like you own the world. So understand that is a muscle that you have to learn if you don't have it. Say what you feel. Don't feel like because you don't just agree with the masses that your opinion isn't warranted. So really be very deliberate and reflect on how you're looking at yourself afterwards, after you're in a conversation when you feel like you haven't done your best. I think that, again, raising your voice, raising your hand, lean on other people. I think one of the greatest privileges of this stage of my career, very frankly, is that I'm less committed to my own success. It's just a privilege to see those that I worked with 10 years ago or so now coming to roles and maybe first-time CPOs and watching them grow and evolve. And so use those people and understand that fear is natural, and accept it and face it head on. So I guess a bit of self-awareness, and then being more deliberate than we tend to be. We like to stay in our shells. It's just as humans, we like to do what's comfortable. So step out of that comfort zone and really, again, ask for what you want, say what you need to.
Yeah. That's very helpful, and especially like we all create these boundaries around ourselves, and sometimes it's really important to challenge that. And the point that you made really resonated with me, that you have had managers or leaders before who have helped you grow in your career. Yeah. So lean on them.
Yes.
So probably transition to my last question.
Of course.
And what would be your advice for the leaders? Of course, of any gender, who are leading large organizations or leading large companies or designing products. What can we do better to create a more inclusive environment in the industry, in our organizations? What would be your advice there?
Well, I think I think it's similar. Self-awareness of the organization. Understand that you have a perspective. You have an innate bias. It's not a bad thing. Just accept that we all have it. It's the sum of all our experiences and our background. And understanding how do we benefit from that? What are our strengths because of that, and what are our weaknesses? And working on those from a leadership perspective. As you're sponsoring individuals, I feel like, these are some very obvious things, but I'll say it. Communication is about the other person. It is not about yourself. It is not about the style that you like to communicate with, but how that person needs to be spoken to. So as leaders at a certain level, you should already be conversant about that. We talk to customers every day, and we already know, we always spend a lot of time prepping, saying, well, this customer is a little bit like this. Yeah. Well, understand that leadership is exactly that same way. The person in front of you has their own idiosyncrasies, and because of whether it's gender or sexual orientation, or there's a certain sensitivity that they have, and being aware of that and speaking to that. And I think that requires empathy and time, which especially as executives, we don't have as much of, but frankly, from my perspective, my privilege of whatever I've been able to attain today is because of the pleasure I've had with the people that have worked for me, dare I say. And so the more I've invested in them, the more they've invested in the organization, and ultimately we've all succeeded. So I do think that taking that time, which myopically feels very difficult to do in our block calendars for 10 hours a day, but I think that taking the time out to do that is really important. So, and again, understanding your perspective and theirs.
That's interesting, and it's very powerful. You're absolutely right. We talk about customers and how we need to talk to them.
Yeah.
Do we put enough intentionality in talking to our teams?
Yeah.
So that's very powerful. Well, this has been amazing, Priya. Thank you so much. Congratulations on an amazing career and all the impact you are making in the industry and in the teams and across the world. So thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, folks, and hope you got something out of it. Of course, I learned a couple of things that I'm going to employ in my leadership style. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you all.